This video is going to be over how to find the midpoint of a line. Alright, there are two ways to find the midpoint, but first of all we need to figure out what midpoint is. Well, the midpoint, mid meaning half, so the midpoint is halfway, is the halfway point in a line. Okay, so to find the midpoint, we're trying to try to find the halfway point in the line or the middle. If the line segments are vertical or horizontal, so in this way there are two ways to find the midpoint. This first way is if the line is vertical or horizontal, meaning up and down or sideways. You may find the midpoint by simply dividing the length of the segment by 2 and counting that value, or counting that value from either of the endpoints. So we're going to, you could divide the segment by 2, okay, and then count that value from either of the endpoints. So that's how we would find the midpoint. So if we're looking at line AB here, we have A, B. If this is our line, we could actually count the distance of this line because the units are there. So we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so line AB equals 8. So to find the midpoint, we need to find the halfway point. And so to find the halfway point, you need to divide by 2. That's what half means. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the midpoint should be 4 units in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there, and that would be our midpoint. Okay, another way you could do that, if you have a shorter line, you can just cross off the lines until you get to the middle. But that takes a really long time. So you could just divide it in half or divide it by 2. So if you have line CD, so line CD equals, let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So line CD equals 3. So 3 divided by 2, so on your calculator you would hit 3 divided by 2 and you would get 1.5. So it's 1.5. So our midpoint here is in the halfway point. So we have to go 1 and then a half, and that's our midpoint. So that is one way to find the midpoint of a line. The next way to find the midpoint of a line is to use this formula. Okay, this formula looks similar to the distance formula that we did in the previous lesson. And so here you have x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So this is actually your x, y points, but we're dividing them by 2 because we have to divide them in half. So the midpoint formula works for all line segments, if they're horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Because if you have a line, if here's your coordinate plane, okay, and you have a line that looks like this, you can't count the units up. You can't count the units like you could a vertical or horizontal line. So we need to use the formula, especially for those lines. Let's do an example. Here's our line AB. We cannot count the units of this line because it doesn't pass through them, pass through the units the same. So we need to use the formula here to figure out the distance of our line, or the midpoint of our line. So to find the midpoint of line AB, here's your points. A is -3, 4, and B is 2y. Remember, this would be x1 and y1, and this is x2 and y2. Okay, so to find the midpoint, we're going to plug these numbers in to our formula. So x1 is -3 plus x2 is 2 divided by 2. And then y1 is 4 plus y2 is 1, and we're going to divide it by 2. So -3 plus 2, so on your calculator you are going to hit the negative sign, 3 plus 2 equals Okay, and you should get -1 over 2, and 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2. Okay, now you can leave them as fractions, but sometimes it's difficult. So -1/2, to figure out what that is in a decimal, you would do -1 divided by 2, and you will get -0.5, and then 5 divided by 2, you would get 2.5. So to find that on our coordinate grid, we need to find -0.5, 2.5. Okay, so we're going to go -1/2, so that's our half, and then up 2.5. 1, 2.5. So there's the midpoint of our line. So that's how you use the midpoint formula. You just plug in the numbers into the formula and then do the math computation. Let's try one more example. Okay, it says R is the midpoint between Q, which is -9, -1, and T, which is -3, 7. Let's see if the picture is correct. Okay, so we're going to use our numbers here, and we're going to plug them into the formula. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so x1 is -9 plus x2 is -3. y1, -1 plus y2, 7 divided by 2. On your calculator, you would hit negative sign 9 plus negative sign 3 equals, you'll get -12 over 2, and then negative sign 1 plus 7 equals 6 over 2. Okay, now we're just going to simplify those fractions. -12 divided by 2 is -6, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our midpoint is -6, 3. So we're going to go over -6 and up 3. Here's our 3 point. Okay, and our picture is correct. Hopefully this has helped you understand how to plug in the XY coordinates into the midpoint formula and find the midpoint of a line. If you are still having trouble, you need to go back through the lesson and look at the written part. And if you're still having trouble, contact your teacher.